Hello, welcome back. Sean here from Dirty Jobs. No, that's a different guy. But today, and disregard the name on the shop shirt, I'm doing a nasty job. One of my least favorite and most needed jobs, hour after hour every week, is removing gaskets, probably stuck on by some artificial means that I've come to despise. In this case, RTV on an intake manifold. One, gasoline and RTV don't usually mix very well. The gasoline wins every time, and you'll end up with a leak anyway. But in this case, this tunnel ram manifold, now this is a nice, somewhere under all the grease, is a polished Elderbrock street tunnel ram that retails these days for about $1,200. Now, I just took the carburetors off. They're just out of view, probably. I was going to take a picture of it, but after the last video, I don't want to seem like I complain about everybody's work, mine included. So I guess I don't spare anybody. I do complain about things I like or dislike. If I like it, I will tell the whole world of your wonderful skill set. So I don't discriminate, but I'm hardest on myself, trying to be better all the time. Just a quick look into some of the engineering that was on this manifold. There's a vacuum port on either side right here. On this side, there was many fittings, incorporating a welded on key, or brazed on, this is brass, for the return spring, and it held up. It's amazing the homemade progressive linkage that looks like the throttle would stick and you'd end up in the woods. But again, underneath all this, I can save it. And today, this afternoon, Saturday, end of March 2024, I have turned on the parts washer and I'm going to be washing the case of this Turbo 400. But I had the tunnel ram sitting here on the bench. I figured I'd throw that in too and let it get clean, because underneath this is a polished finish and I want it to look nice. Lately, you know, in the news, if you will, there's been a lot of talk about, if you're a mechanic, how you should never use Scotch-Brite. Well, we're going to cover them all, and they all have the same warning, if you ask me. This bench top is 5/8 of an inch thick. If I want to, I can cut it in half with this piece of this roll-lock disc, but it would take me a while. And I could damage all these surfaces, or if you're careful, you could finish that and not have an issue. So that's all in the user. It's not in the product. Everything I show you here, I've listened to people talk at length that, you know, you have to use a wire wheel. You can use this, but you can't use this. Well, I can do just as much damage with the wire brush if I want to. If I held it in one spot, I could go all the way to the table. So, but let's cover them one by one. Starting with my favorite. Look at how many times I've sharpened this old putty knife that I found while I was walking one day. A long time ago, I sharpened it like a razor blade. And on something like this, if you're careful going forward, you can definitely do some work. I'm just taking the skim of RTV off there. But what I like to do when I'm cleaning up a surface, I want to do it fast. I don't want to hurt it. I'll either take a razor blade, the kind that goes in the little handle, but it's only a razor blade on one side. It's got a little folded over piece on the other you can hang on to. And you can go forward. I've known people that strip paint this way, like on an entire car. That's how they do it. But use it backwards. If you scrape like this, you'd be surprised. When you're down to almost clean enough to wipe off, if you go backwards, that works really well. A few months ago, I was at Harbor Freight, and I got to give a shout out, and I don't get serviced by a tool truck anymore, but I bought an assortment of these plastic scrapers. This is awesome. This is what I'm using right now to get this gasket off here. You can press as hard as you want, any angle you want. If it gets dull on one side, you can flip it over because you're kind of sharpening as you go. You can also sharpen it on the sander, but there's no way you can hurt anything with it. I could push on that all day, and the plastic's gonna wear out first, but it's pretty tough, and it's doing a fantastic job. I can go right in here on the side. This is, again, it's a polished finish. I'm not even gonna hurt it. This has become my new favorite go-to, and I'm using the biggest one in the package. I'm doing some pretty intricate work, and someday you'll see me and this will be this long and I'll have to go back and spend $8 or $10, whatever they were. I'm gonna buy a second pack next time I'm there. Again, I'm gonna give credit where credit's due. That is a good product. And again, I don't have tool trucks rolling into my shop like I used to when I worked at a real job. Maybe they offer something very similar. Either way, the old plastic, I don't know what kind of plastic it is, but so far, I mean, I've been using this thing for 2 months and I haven't even worn the end yet. So, impressed with that. So now for more manual ways, this is the barbecue grill cleaner. Sandpaper on a body working tool that's flat works well too, but this does an amazing job knocking off the RTV, sorry about the rattling. And I feel relatively secure because it's flat. I'm not gonna do a lot of damage. I'm not gonna do this off the edge. I'm not gonna do it for 3 hours, but right there, just took off most of the RTV where I can, from there, wipe it off with solvent. This style 3M bristle disc is called. Does an excellent job. The bristles fly off every now and then, so you want to be wearing your safety glasses, which I had on earlier before I started shooting the video. And old clothes, you can lean right into it. I'm sure you could do, you know, metal removal with this if you want to push hard enough, but this is good on cylinder head surfaces if you want to use a rotary tool. And depending on what kind of job and how you're getting paid, if you're working flat rate, you're probably not going to do it by hand if you can avoid it. But you don't want to do damage. These do work pretty good. They last a long time. I only bought 2 and I've had this one 3 or 4 years anyway. I only use it in special occasions, but it works pretty good. We've already covered the wire brushes. I do like, for instance, where'd it go? Doing bolt holes and like the pipe plug holes I just did. These are wicked cheap. I also bought these at Harbor Freight. I mean, just stick them in the drill. You can use them by hand too, but you've all seen a pipe cleaner or whatever it's called, but I power on the rotary tool, and things can go wrong if you're not careful, but it does a good job in holes. This one's getting wore out. I don't have one right here. Yes, I do. Usually not too far out of reach. I have a small wire brush, and that's good for little nooks and crannies. I don't think you could hurt anything with it manually. Moving a very fine wire brush. They come in different bristle grits, I guess you'd call it. Much like these do. These come in all different sizes. These are not my go-to. They're good for some things, but like today, I will not be using them cleaning up the surfaces for this particular manifold. Now, the RTV in the bolt holes has hydraulic them. These threads survived. They ruined one bolt hole in the thermostat housing because the hole was full of RTV and that bolt goes down and you can only hydraulic it so much. It's gonna push up and out, and it stripped the threads. I believe this, they actually had white Teflon on the pipe plug for the heater port. That's fine. It's dirty. The other day when I was trying this manifold on my cylinder heads, I just roughed out this side. I think I used a piece of Scotch-Brite after scraping it. It needs a little more work, but no damage, and that is the key. Piece of Scotch-Brite in your hand is good for detail work. Once again, I don't want to hang off the edge. I don't want to create, you know, a canyon. But if you're careful, I'm not pushing very hard, it's just making it cleaner and shinier. Sandpaper by hand, same thing. You just got to be careful of the grit and what you're trying to accomplish, but not too far. You'll find a well-used piece on my bench for if I need to touch something up. It's right there. After I get this polished manifold clean, now natural aluminum is my choice. I bought the twin to this manifold from my buddy, the same guy I got the blower motor from. Again, we deal all the time. People were kind of upset with him in the last video. A couple people mentioned that, you know, he took advantage of me. No, he got the parts and passed them on. It's not like he physically built the engine or knew anything more of it, because he's the most honest, nicest guy you'd ever meet. It's not that at all. If I'm not mad, you shouldn't be. So for this, again, I would not choose a polished manifold. Natural aluminum is my choice when I do the blower. Natural is where it's at. However, this happens to be polished, and also from my buddy. Years back, I bought or traded into two 600 vacuum secondary Hollies that I'm going to mount sideways on this. And they are also polished. I think I got it backwards. There we go. Nope, that was right. Nope, that's right. So the 377, just the junk that the pulleys that I bolted on are polished. The alternator bracket and the alternator is polished. Now I'm going to have, you know, slightly used, but I'm going to try to make it as pretty as possible. A polished manifold and carburetors. We're out of my comfort zone here, but that's okay. So I got to get this clean and in the parts washer so I can concentrate on what I should be doing, stripping that Turbo 400. You have yourself a wonderful Saturday afternoon.